The meaning of the movie author Orpheus for reading 13 minutes published 23.01. 2019 updated 3.12. 2022 Marshal Teddy Daniels and his partner show up at Ashcliffe Psychiatric Hospital investigating the mysterious story of one of the patients. The hospital is on an island for a reason. Its mentally ill patients are extremely dangerous and have already caused harm to those around them. It's up to Teddy to get to the truth, but he realizes it won't be easy. The patient he's looking for seems to have vanished from her room. But this is where the mysteries only begin. The Marshal finds himself in the very epicenter of intricacies and intrigues reigning on the island. The movie intrigues and captures attention from the first minutes. The meaning of the movie, Island of the Damned, is revealed not immediately, but closer to the end. Let's step by step understand what this picture is about. Dissection of the movie, Island of the Damned. I apologize in advance to anyone who sees hidden secrets or deeper meanings in the movie. All the conspiracy theories about Island of the Damned being some sort of secret government agency are simply not true. DiCaprio's character, Andrew Ladis, aka Patient 67, is a mentally ill inmate of Damn Island who the doctors are trying to rehabilitate. Teddy thinks he's exploring the island, but he's actually caught up in a convoluted role-playing game designed by Dr. Cowley and Teddy's partner Chuck, who is actually Teddy's primary psychiatrist, the missing Dr. Sheehan. Cowley and Sheehan are the more sympathetic doctors who believe that with therapy and compassion, Andrew Ladis' insanity can be cured. On the other hand, Dr. Naring and the warden believe that guys like Andrew are too unstable and violent for a therapeutic solution. Role-playing on the island was done to give Dr. Cowley and Dr. Sheehan one last chance to prove the effectiveness of their methodology. They must prove that Andrew Ladis can be brought out of his Teddy Daniels fantasy, and will be able to accept reality. His wife, Dolores, was mentally ill and killed their children, and it was he, Andrew, who took her life in revenge. Andrew feels guilty because he knew about his wife's insanity for a long time. But because of his own drinking problems and PTSD from World War II, Andrew didn't recognize the extent of her problems, and it cost him his children. Guilt and resentment led Andrew to invent a secondary persona in which he's still a war hero and federal marshal named Teddy Daniels. He concocts a convoluted mental narrative in which he can't, or won't, solve the central mystery, that he is the very same Patient 67. Explanation of the ending of the movie Island of the Damned. The ending of the movie seems ambiguous to many, but again, to me it was pretty clear. Teddy realizes that he is actually Andrew Ladis. He's smart, which can be seen the next day. When Dr. Sheehan sits with him on the steps, Andrew knows that the doctors are watching his behavior. The thing is, his guilt and pain is still so heavy that he realizes the impossibility of living with those feelings. Instead of living with all the pain, he decides to pretend to be Teddy Daniels to let them give him a lobotomy and finally be free of his burden. At the end of the movie, he utters the phrase, "What's worse, to die a man or live a monster?" causing the viewer to wonder if the character is actually insane or pretending. Conspiracy theory debunking. Different people perceive the same things in all sorts of ways, but you must have concrete evidence from the source material to support your theory. Here's a list of examples that prove that Teddy Daniels was sane at the end of the movie and fooled the doctors. When the movie begins, Teddy is on a boat sailing to an island. The cabin Teddy is in has handcuffs, which are restraints for prisoners being taken to the island. These are what Teddy was most likely being held in before the experiment began. As for Teddy not remembering anything before he was on the ship, that's most likely a small hole in the movie. In the lighthouse, Dr. Cowley tells Andrew that he is seeing hallucinations and feeling shaky in his body because of the drugs he is taking. But it's actually the opposite. The cigarettes and pills Teddy takes throughout the movie are meant to rid him of his hallucinations. Cowley and Sheehan stop giving Andrew the drugs during the experiment to help him break through to reality. Throughout the movie, Teddy has increasingly vivid hallucinations. His medication was meant to suppress the psychosis, not intensify it. The refusal of his medication is what makes him go insane in the movie. The fire is a symbol of Andrew's insanity. If you look closely, every time Teddy is near the fire, he is experiencing some sort of hallucination. The matches he lights from time to time, the fire in the cave with Dr. Solando, the fire from Dr. Cowley's car exploding. Fire is a symbol of the hero's fantasy world, and water, the opposite of fire, is a symbol of the reality that happened to him. His wife drowns her children in water, and it is the water that makes Andrew so upset, anxious and sick throughout the movie. The cave scene with Dr. Solando isn't real, and by extension, its entire narrative about the island of the damned being a secret government mind control lab isn't real either. The whole government mind control operation is Andrew Laddis' fantasy. It allows him to explain to himself over and over again why he is on the island. The purpose of Dr. Cowley and Dr. Sheehan's role-playing is to allow Andrew to see how impossible and absurd his conspiracy theory is, allowing him to explore it to the end. This is why Dr. Sheehan provokes Andrew's wild theories. He wants Andrew to play out his fantasy until he sees that it is absurd. The character George Noyce is a guy who knew Teddy while incarcerated. Noyce was a criminal who ended up on the island and fed Andrew's fantasies. One day, Noyce called Teddy by the name of Leddies, causing a psychotic outburst, for which Andrew beat him up. It was this attack that prompted Dr. Naring and the Guardian to push Leddies towards a lobotomy, forcing Dr. Cowley and Dr. Sheehan to create a role-playing game as a last-ditch attempt to cure Leddies. Rule number 4 and patient number 67. Rule number 4 has to do with the anagram names Andrew comes up with for his fantasy world. Edward Daniels is an anagram of a Andrew Laddis, and a Rachel Solando is an anagram of a Dolores Chanel, the maiden name of Andrew's dead wife. To make anagrams work, use English names. As for patient 67, Andrew Laddis is patient 67. Teddy Daniels can never find patient 67, and while he's looking for him, he can't return to reality. Rachel Solando is just a play. Rachel Laddis is the name of Andrew's dead daughter. His daughter is the little girl who appears in his Holocaust dreams and tells him that he should have saved her. His daughter represents the truth. She is the one thing Andrew cannot deny or forget. Dr. Cowley's nurse, Rachel Solando, is part of a therapeutic technique to make Andrew remember his real wife. If you watch the scene again, you'll see that Cowley's idea almost works, but not quite. Andrew's brain just can't handle the workload. The latest confirmation from the movie's creators, the main actors and director, have talked at great length about how difficult it was to film Island of the Damned. The problem was that when they started filming, they realized that on first viewing the audience is supposed to believe that Dr. Cowley and the island could be something sinister. But on a second viewing you have to realize that everyone around Teddy is role-playing and trying to keep his fantasy alive, although many of the staff and guards are not happy about it. After watching the movie a second time and knowing how it ends, I have to say that Scorsese and the actors did a great job. It's all too obvious that the other characters know that Teddy is crazy, and here are a few hints to help you see it for yourself. Watch the guards throughout the movie. They can get very irritable when Teddy is around, and clutch their guns a little tighter. This is especially seen in the beginning when the marshals arrive on the island. This is because the guards know about Teddy's craziness, and they are not thrilled about the role-playing experiment. They're also not thrilled about finding Rachel Solando, who doesn't exist. Note the staff interview. When Teddy and Chuck interview the nurses and orderlies, it's easy to see how ridiculous the staff sees the whole thing. One nurse makes an ironic joke because she's talking to a crazy man dressed as a police officer. In this scene, the staff isn't too keen on role-playing either, and Dr. Sheehan and Chuck pushes them to answer Teddy's questions. When Teddy interviews Mrs. Kearns, she writes "run" on the paper. She slips Teddy because she knows he has a chance to escape while they're doing this whole experiment. The creepy lady at the beginning of the movie waves at Teddy because she knows him, knows he's playing a game, and she's been ordered not to spoil it. In the end, Island of the Damned is a pretty obvious movie if you review it carefully. I realize that the reality that Teddy is crazy may not be as entertaining as some of the conspiracy theories, but the evidence is all over the movie. The meaning of the movie Island of the Damned. The point of the movie, Island of the Damned, is mainly that it is easier for a person to believe the most ridiculous fiction than to accept the bitter truth. The clue is shocking and, in the first few minutes, confusing. According to Dr. Cowley, Marshal Teddy Daniels is not and never was, but a patient of the Ashcliffe Hospital Andrew Laddis. In the past he lived with his wife Dolores and 3 children. Dolores was mentally ill, and one day drowned all her children. Upon returning home, Andrew found them dead. Out of desperation, he killed his wife, whom he loved very much. Andrew was unable to accept reality and deal with the guilt of his family's death, so his brain created a new Marshall personality. He spent several years in the hospital, but the treatment didn't work. Ladis was a violent patient and a lobotomy awaited him. However, Dr. Cowley and physician Lester Sheen decide to give Ladis another chance to deal with the madness. He is allowed to feel like Marshall Teddy Daniels, and to play the role he invented to the end in order to get to the truth and realize the illogic of his ideas. He is taken out of the hospital on a ship, and then returns there on the same ship for his investigation. He gets into the role of a marshal, conducting interrogations, looking for clues. All the staff and patients of the psychiatric hospital take part in the experiment, playing along with someone who was locked up in one of the wards until recently. Some are quite skeptical, but the game goes on until the finale. At the lighthouse, Dr. Cowley explains to the imaginary marshal all the strange things he has encountered lately. The nightmares and hallucinations are not the result of taking substances slipped by Teddy's ill wishes, but instead the result of refusing to take the medication he was taking during his treatment. The disappeared patient never existed in the hospital, it's just a game of the protagonist's sick mind. To believe in the story of Dr. Cowley is not easy, and to accept this truth is too hard for Ladis, because madness protected him from terrible memories and feelings of guilt for the death of loved ones. Andrew knew of his wife's illness, but did not pay much attention to it. As a result, his children died at the hands of an insane mother. The loss of the family he loved so much tears Ladis's soul, and the unbearable pain of realizing the responsibility for sin drives him crazy. He blames himself for leaving his children with the sick Dolores, for not helping her to cope with her serious illness. But he cannot change the past, and the present is becoming unbearable. Andrew's consciousness cuts the events of reality and sews a canvas of clever fiction to hide under it the feeling of guilt in what happened. Andrew Ladis cannot accept the truth, and therefore does not want to know it. He blindly believes in his role as a marshal to the end, but still he has to give it up. The meaning of the ending of the movie Island of the Damned. After viewing, many viewers are left with the question, was Andrew able to defeat insanity? The ending of the movie leaves no doubt about the success of the experiment. Yes, Ladis is taken away for a lobotomy as if to confirm the victory of the disease over his mind. But Andrew's parting phrase to his doctor suggests otherwise. What's better, to live as a monster or to die as a man? He makes his choice and voluntarily goes in for a lobotomy, continuing to play the role of a marshal even though he no longer believes in it. He has realized the truth, but he is unable to accept it. For him, the guilt of the death of his wife and children makes him a monster, and he refuses to live with this burden. The doctor understands what the patient's words mean, but lets him go in for surgery. He cannot stand in the way of his choice to die a human being. The truth revealed in the experiment is too heavy a burden on Andrew's shoulders. The meaning of the ending lies in the last question of the protagonist, to live as a monster or to die as a man, but everyone makes his own choice. And the choice of Andrew Ladis is quite clear, to die as a human, for there is no strength to live as a monster. Write in the comments your assumptions and theories, what the movie Island of the Damned is about and what is its meaning. We'll be looking forward to it. Rate this article, add a comment, cancel, reply Vladimir 7.09. 2019 at 23:05 p.m. 5:29 a.m. Plaque reading, remember us, for we too lived, loved and laughed, refers us to the idea that the people who came to the island were previously normal, full-fledged human beings who have been driven to madness here. 6:58 Marshals arriving on the island are told that admission to Building C is forbidden without the personal consent and presence of the Chief of Security and the Chief Medical Officer. How can their activities be investigated without unlimited authority? 7:14 They demand to surrender firearms. If DiCaprio is a psycho they are trying to cure, they could give him a gun with blank cartridges and not demand to surrender the weapon. 8:56, and in several other places, the patient of the psychiatric hospital puts her finger to her lips and makes it clear to DiCaprio's character to keep quiet. 40 for colon 50 DiCaprio. When Vades suddenly disappeared, I made inquiries about Ashcliffe, or prison. A lot of people know about this place, but they don't talk about it. And it's obvious they're scared to death. And the money for this institution comes from a special grant from the Commission on Un-American Activities. Are you kidding? How do they fight communists on an island in Boston Harbor? By experimenting on the human mind. I think so. I think so. You think it's all happening here? You think it's all happening here? I told you, everybody's quiet, right? But I tracked down a former patient. A guy named Georges Noyce. Nice student. Socialist. He was offered money to participate in research. What kind of research do you think? Toothpaste? He started seeing dragons everywhere. He almost beat the professor to death. So he ended up in Ashcliffe. This is crazy. This place reeks of covert ops. What if you were lured? Don't bullshit. You did your research, yes, we're here for Rachel Solando, but where's the proof she was even here? No one knew I was assigned to the case. No one. What if while you were digging for them, they were digging for you? And they faked the damn escape, trapped you. And the trap is both of us, here, now. 2 hours 8 minutes and 12 seconds DiCaprio, or to partner we gotta get out of here Chuck, what's going on here is trouble. A partner looks at the chief medical officer and shakes his head to the side, he says, it didn't work out. 2:08 and 35 seconds PM The chief medical officer says to the military standing nearby, I'm washing my hands of this. If DiCaprio's character were trying to be treated, the doctor would say something like, I'm powerless, I don't know what else to do, I haven't been able to do anything. I'm washing my hands of it, makes it clear there's nothing more I can do in this messy business. Go to plan B, we can't turn him into a madman, start turning him into a vegetable equals lobotomy, side. You can find many more moments, whereas the marshal was slipped water with psychotropic substances, as given pills and so on, but the essence, I think, is clear and so, he got involved in scandalous affairs of the government. He and his partner were lured to an island, where he had to make a choice. 1. To realize that it is better to give up further investigation. 2. If he doesn't give up, he should be turned into a psycho. 3. If he can't be turned into a psycho, he will be turned into a vegetable. ZYZY. It's not a fact that he went voluntarily. Vladimir 25.03. 2021 at 22:51. It was interesting to read. A very cool commentary indeed. What is the real meaning? Svetlana 8.06. 2021 at 10:59 p.m.